They say love conquers all. That if you truly love someone, nothing else matters. Not the opinions of others, not the scars of the past, not even the ones written on your skin. I believed that once. Until the day I met his parents. I remember the exact moment everything shifted. I was standing in their pristine, air-conditioned living room, wearing my best dress, hands neatly folded in my lap. I had rehearsed 100 different ways to impress them. What to say, how to smile, how to be the kind of woman they would welcome into their family with open arms. But none of it mattered. His mother's eyes landed on me, and I saw it happen. The way her expression changed, the way her lips pressed together, tight and disapproving. She didn't even have to say it out loud. She didn't want me there. And then, as if on cue, his father cleared his throat and asked, "So, how did it happen?" No introduction, no small talk, just straight to that. I forced a polite smile. "I was in an accident when I was a child, a house fire." Silence. His mother exhaled sharply, shaking her head like I had just told her I carried a contagious disease. Oh dear, that must have been difficult. Difficult was waking up in a hospital at 6 years old, covered in bandages, screaming for my mother. Difficult was years of painful surgeries, learning to walk again, learning to live with people staring, whispering. Difficult was standing here, decades later, in front of two strangers who thought my scars defined me more than my heart ever could. But I didn't say any of that. I just nodded. Yes, it was. Then came the final blow. His mother smiled, that thin, insincere kind of smile. "You seem like a very strong girl. But you have to understand, our son comes from a well-respected family. His future is important to us. We just want what's best for him." And there it was. They weren't rejecting me because of my personality. Not because they thought I was unkind or unworthy of love. No, their problem was simpler. My face wasn't smooth enough. My body wasn't flawless enough. I wasn't good enough. I turned to him. I needed him to say something, anything. I needed him to defend me, to tell them they were wrong, to remind them that love isn't measured by the smoothness of skin or the absence of scars. But he just sat there, silent, heart clenched. His father leaned forward, speaking in that calm, patronizing voice that people use when they think they're being reasonable. "You're young, you'll find someone who's a better match. Someone who," he hesitated, choosing his words carefully, "suits you more. Suits me more." Like I was a dress that didn't quite fit. I should have felt broken in that moment. But I didn't. Something else rose inside me instead. Something cold and sharp and unshakable. I smiled, I nodded, I listened, and right then and there I made a decision. One that would change everything. I left that house in complete silence. No shouting, no arguments, no dramatic exits. Just a quiet nod, a polite goodbye, and the sound of my own footsteps walking away. But inside me, a storm. I don't even remember how I got home that night. I must have taken a cab, or maybe I walked. I honestly don't know. All I remember is staring at my reflection in the mirror, running my fingers over the scars I had stopped hating a long time ago. Scars that told a story of survival, a story they refused to see. Their words replayed in my head like a broken record. "You have to understand. We just want what's best for him. You'll find someone who suits you more." I wanted to laugh. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream at the universe and ask how, after everything I had been through, I was still being punished for something beyond my control. And then, just when I thought I had nothing left to feel, my phone buzzed. Him. I stared at the screen, debating whether to pick up. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let the silence speak for itself. But another part of me, maybe the foolish part, needed to know. I answered. He sounded nervous. Like he already knew he had messed up. "Hey, I just wanted to check if you got home safe." I closed my eyes, took a breath. I did. Silence. Then he sighed. "Listen, about what my parents said." I cut him off. "Do you think they're right?" Another pause, a hesitation. And that told me everything I needed to know. "If it were up to me, none of this would matter," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But, you know how my parents are. I can't just ignore them. They're my family." I almost laughed. His family. What was I supposed to be? A guest? A temporary visitor? Someone to be discarded the moment they decided I wasn't worthy? Something inside me snapped. "You said you loved me," I said, my voice steady, calm. "Did you mean it?" "Of course I do." "Then why didn't you say anything?" He exhaled sharply. What did you want me to do? Argue with them? Go against my entire family? I smiled bitterly. Yes, actually, that's exactly what I wanted you to do. Silence again, this time heavier. I need time to figure this out, he finally said. Time. Time to decide whether I was worth standing up for. Time to decide whether I was worth it. I took a deep breath, letting his words settle, and then, just as calmly, I said, "Take all the time you need." Then I hung up. And that's when I knew this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. The next morning, I woke up feeling different. Lighter, clearer, as if something inside me had finally clicked into place. For years, I had been strong because I had to be. I had survived things most people couldn't even imagine. But last night, I realized something. I wasn't just a survivor. I was someone who deserved more. I checked my phone, no messages, no missed calls, nothing from him. I wasn't surprised. He was probably waiting for things to calm down, for his parents to soften, for me to understand why he couldn't fight for me. But that was the thing. I did understand. I understood perfectly. So, I made a decision. Not an emotional one, not a reckless one. A decision that had been forming for years, long before I ever met him. I got up, showered, and put on my favorite outfit. Not because I had anywhere to go, but because I wanted to. Because looking in the mirror and seeing myself, really seeing myself, felt good. Then I opened my laptop and started typing. I wrote about the rejection, the humiliation, the way people look at women like me and assume we are less valuable, less desirable, less worthy of love. I wrote about the fire, about the pain, about the years of fighting to feel like a person again. And then I wrote about the moment I finally realized I didn't need anyone's approval to be happy. Not his parents, not society's. When I was done, I stared at the words on the screen. Then, with one deep breath, I hit post. I didn't expect what happened next. Not the thousands of comments. Not the messages from women just like me, telling me their own stories of rejection, of cruelty, of men who were too weak to love them out loud. And I definitely didn't expect what came next. Because when his mother saw my post, she was furious. And she wasn't about to stay silent. I didn't hear from him. Not that day. Not the next. But I did hear from someone else. His mother. It started with a phone call. Unknown number. I answered, not thinking much of it. And then, her voice, sharp, clipped, laced with rage. "How dare you?" I almost laughed. I dared to speak, to tell my side of the story, to let the world see what people like her do behind closed doors. She didn't even wait for me to answer. She just kept going. "You had no right to drag our family into this nonsense. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Oh, I had an idea. A very good one. Her friends had seen the post. Her relatives. Her social circle. The same circle that worshipped status and image and perfection, now whispering about her son, about her, about the scandal of it all. And she couldn't handle it. So she did what women like her always do. She tried to shame me back into silence. "You're making yourself look desperate," she spat. "No respectable woman would air her private matters like this." I smiled, leaning back in my chair. "You mean the way you did when you told me I wasn't good enough for your son?" Silence. She wasn't expecting that. She took a deep breath, her voice dropping into something lower, something calculated. "Listen, I know this is emotional for you. I understand that rejection is hard. Rejection. Hard. As if I were some lovesick teenager crying over a breakup." I cut her off. "You don't understand anything, but don't worry, you will." Then I hung up. And that's when I knew I wasn't done. Because I didn't just want to walk away. I wanted to make a statement. So I did something no one saw coming. I called up an event planner, one of the best in the city. I told them I needed a venue. A grand one. A hall meant for weddings, celebrations, new beginnings. And then I made an announcement. A formal invitation. Public. Bold. I was throwing a party. Not an engagement party, not a wedding, something better. And when people saw what I was planning, the entire family lost their minds. The day of the event arrived, and I made sure every detail was perfect. A grand hall, chandeliers dripping with light, tables covered in the finest decor. Elegant invitations had been sent out. Family, friends, even some of his relatives. I wanted them all to see, to witness. Because tonight wasn't about a wedding, it was about rebirth. The guests arrived, dressed in their finest, whispering to each other, confused but curious. After all, who throws a party after getting rejected? Who celebrates a broken engagement? I did. I stood at the entrance, wearing the most stunning gown I had ever owned. My scars on full display. Unapologetic. No more long sleeves, no more carefully styled hair to hide my face. Tonight I wanted the world to see me. And then, right on cue, they arrived. His mother, looking like she had swallowed a lemon. His father, stiff, uncomfortable. And him, standing there, his eyes scanning the room, confused. Good. Let him wonder. He walked up to me, voice cautious. "What is this?" I smiled. "You'll see." Then, I took the stage. A microphone in my hand. The room fell silent. I took a deep breath, looking at the sea of faces in front of me. Some judgmental, some supportive, some just waiting to see what kind of spectacle this was going to be. And then, I spoke. Tonight is a special night. Some of you were expecting a wedding. Some of you heard the rumors. Some of you already think you know what happened. I let my eyes drift to his mother. She shifted uncomfortably, but let me tell you the truth. A hush spread through the room. I was supposed to be standing here tonight as someone's bride. A woman whose worth was measured by how she looked, by how acceptable she was in the eyes of another family. I paused, my voice steady. But I am not here tonight as a bride. I am here as something better. A woman who chooses herself. A murmur rippled through the crowd. I continued. You see, I was raised to believe that love conquers all, that if you're good enough, strong enough, patient enough, people will love you for who you are. But that's not always true. Sometimes people only love the idea of you, the version of you that makes them comfortable. I looked at him then. His face was pale. But I refused to be a version of myself that makes anyone else comfortable. Silence. Then I turned to the center of the room, where a massive, beautiful, multi-tiered cake stood. White, elegant, and on top, a single figurine. Not a bride and groom, just one woman, standing tall, proud. Me. I picked up the knife, lifted it high, and sliced through the cake. The crowd gasped, some laughing, some cheering, and just like that, the energy shifted. I wasn't a rejected woman. I wasn't a victim. I was a woman celebrating herself. The party? Oh, it exploded after that. The music blared, people danced, glasses clinked. Some people left in shock, but most stayed, swept up in the unexpected joy of it all. And him? He just stood there watching, realizing, too late, that I had never needed him. As for his mother, she stormed out, humiliated. And me? I danced, I laughed, because for the first time in my life, I was free. And now I ask you, what would you have done in my place? Would you have walked away quietly? Would you have fought for someone who wouldn't fight for you? Or would you have done what I did, made your own ending? Ladies, remember this. You do not need validation. You do not need approval. You do not need to be chosen. You are already enough. Tell me in the comments, does this happen in your country? Do women still get judged for their past, their looks, their scars? And if they do, what are we going to do about it?